I want you to know that every single one of us possesses the ability to have that power, that knowledge to do whatever you want to do, to shape yourself, to shape the next phase of your life. Part of the way that you can do that is to be able to decode the language that narcissists use and really be able to recognize that on the spot. And that's what we're going to be doing today, so that you can enlighten yourself. Today, we're diving deeper, even deeper, with 5 narcissism code words you need to know. Recognizing these phrases can reshape the way that you review relationships, whether they're professional, whether they're personal, family, neighbor, doesn't matter. It helps to protect you, put that bubble around you, protect your mental, spiritual, physical, emotional well-being. So code word number 1 is, I didn't mean it that way. Yeah, you're just taking it wrong, right? I didn't mean it that way. So this phrase is often a method of evading accountability. That's what they love to do. They're like slippery eels, right? They use this to imply that you are misinterpreting their intent, thereby putting that blame back onto you. So, for example, if a partner belittles you, belittles your job, and tells you, I didn't mean it that way, they're dismissing your feelings. It's a way of dismissing your feelings, devaluing your feelings, making you feel like whatever it is that you felt wasn't real. And that's not okay. If a colleague takes credit for your work, oh, I didn't mean it that way. I thought we were just collaborating. Again, it just makes you feel like whatever it was that you felt, you shouldn't be feeling that way. So I didn't mean it that way. That's number 1, code word number 1. Code word number 2 is you're too sensitive. You're too sensitive. They say this all the time. This is so manipulative. It is, again, designed to trivialize your feelings. By labeling you as you're too sensitive, it is meant to invalidate you, invalidate your reactions, making it seem like you're the one who has the problems. I remember that there was somebody that I knew that would, say the worst, most horrible things, and then they'd slap the word "ha" on the end of that sentence. Oh, you're just the worst thing. Ha! And that was supposed to take it all away. Again, they're trying to make it seem like you're the problem, not their actions are the problem. Not okay. And if you agree with me that that is not okay, give me not okay in the comments. And by the way, if you need additional support, make sure you join my free private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. Get the help and support that you need. And if you want free phrases for disarming narcissists, make sure you get my free phrases for disarming narcissists at disarmthenarc.com. So important, disarmthenarc.com. Free phrases. You can use them for text, emails, whatever it is that you need, disarmthenarc.com. Next one that you're going to need that you probably have heard is, I'm only joking. I was only joking. Again, humor used as a shield against accountability. It's an attempt to paint the person as on the receiving end, as lacking a sense of humor. I remember somebody actually, tried to call me a narcissist and then say, oh, it was my attempt at humor, and thereby diverting attention or an attempt away from saying something that was extremely hurtful and very, very hurtful actions or remarks. It's not okay if a coworker makes a derogatory comment about your appearance. Oh my goodness. That's, again, something really, really hurtful. I've actually heard somebody say, oh, that person's not eating it today, because they're on a diet. Oh, just kidding, just kidding. And they're actually saying this in a group setting in front of people, and they might actually be really very sensitive about their weight. That's really, really embarrassing to somebody. It can be really harmful, very shameful, about embarrassing for them. not okay. And if they shrug it off and just say, oh, it was just a joke, it was just a joke, that is so, so hurtful. It can be really, really hurtful, and it can cause pain to somebody for a very, very long time. It can cause a deep amount of trauma to somebody, and you really don't know what a person is dealing with. So this is just awful. The next one that is a code word is it's for your own good. It's for your own good. This is a covert way of justifying or controlling unsolicited behavior. And they make it seem like this is a very, very covert narcissist thing to do. Oh, I'm just trying to help. I'm so concerned. This is something that covert narcissists do all the time. They couch their narcissism in concern, and they act as if they're in the person's best interests. And this is how they smear people too. In reality, they're really just smearing, or if they're talking directly to the person, they're just being narcissists, and it's a way of putting people down. I don't really like that dress, or, it doesn't really look the best on you. They're just trying to discourage people from hanging out with other people. Oh, they're really not the best crowd for you. They're really just trying to isolate you. They're trying to push you into a particular career path. And it's really just a way of discouraging you against your passions. That's so not okay. Point number 5, nobody else thinks that. This is very, very narcissistic. Again, it's that whole everybody else thinks this, nobody else thinks that. Narcissists try to isolate you. They try to devalue you. They try to make you feel like they're the only ones that might care about you, or that you should overly rely on them, or they're trying to marginalize your feelings, or they're trying to isolate you. By saying that nobody else thinks that, they're aiming to get you to doubt the legitimacy of your own feelings. It's a way of gaslighting you and trying to get you to think that you're crazy, and get you to doubt what it is that you're thinking, or maybe get you to not believe your own senses a lot of times. So maybe you're thinking something happened at work. You're worried about how you're being perceived or something. Oh, nobody else thinks that. In a group of friends, you bring up an issue and you might consider your concerns. Well, nobody else thinks that. You're the only one who feels that way. These are ways that narcissists get to control you. By recognizing these code words and these patterns, you start to realize, hey, this is a person that's not supporting me. And again, I go back to, how do you feel after you've been with a person? Look at your gut. The heart actually is vibrationally ahead of the brain by 10 seconds. I don't know if you ever knew that. You actually know that something is off. You can just tell how you feel after you've been around this person. Trust your gut. Stop trying to make not your people your people. I am going to give you 10 phrases translated. I'm going to tell you what they say and then what they actually mean in this video. I'm going to decode their secret language. They love to use things like word salad and gaslighting and all sorts of things to kind of destabilize you and manipulate you and confuse you. It's like throwing words into a basket and jiggling them all around, so that you're like over there going, what is that? Is that scrambled eggs? I don't even know, right? But they also say things that they don't actually mean. And so what I'm trying to do here is I want to put the power back in your hands so that you really know what's happening. So many times at the end of a narcissistic relationship, people are like, what was that? Was any of it real? What can I hold my hat on here? It was like a house of cards. Like there was no structure to the whole thing at all. So I want to save you that headache. I want to save you that heartache and tell you what it is that they're saying and what it is that they actually mean in this video. All right. I'm going to decode it. It's sort of like in this video, I'm giving you like the decoder ring. When I was a kid, it was like Scooby-Doo, but I'm sure it's something else nowadays. Anyway, so number 1 is I love you. All right. So I love you does not mean I love you. With a narcissist, I know, big shock, right? But I love you means I love what you can do for me. They need that supply, right? That's what narcissists are all about. They need that supply. They need what you can feed for them, what you can do for them, what you can do for their ego, that adulation, that admiration, because that's that endless black hole that can never be fed inside of them, right? So when they say I love you, it's not about you. It's I want you to say I love you back, and I want you to, do something for me, and I want you to bring to me whatever it is that you're going to bring to me. I want you to love me back. I want you to do stuff for me. So it's not looking at you and saying, I love you. It's definitely not selfless at all. So that's number one. Number two is we're soulmates, because they know that that's something that people want to hear. So a lot of times they use that just sort of as a line, because they know that it will sweep people off their feet and get people to swoon. But they also use that to sort of as like, I own you. You are in my world now. You're mine. They think of people as possessions, not as I can support you in what it is that you want to do. You belong to me. I control you. If you're my soulmate, that you're part of my reign, you're in my web, you are in my lair, whether it's a female or male. Okay. So that's what we're soulmates means. Number three, my ex was crazy or psycho. That means that they probably weren't crazy, or if they were, they probably made them that way, and they probably smeared them, and they probably treated them terribly. And you know how it is with narcissists. You have to, everything's black and white. They probably wanted to have an amicable resolution, and then they had to take them down before they took them down, and it turned into scorched earth litigation, and there was a smear campaign, and it turned into that whole thing. You know how that goes. And the psycho is probably the person that you're looking at, just saying. So there's that. Number four is the trust one. So they'll either say, you're not trustworthy to you, or you can trust me about themselves. So, but there's going to definitely be a conversation around trust, and whatever the conversation is, it's a lie, So if they say you're not trustworthy, what they're really saying is they're not trustworthy. And then if they say you can trust me, that's probably a lie too. So either way, it ain't good, whatever that is. Because if they bring up trust, it's just kind of an icky conversation. All right. So that's number four. Number five is let's just forget about the past. This is all in the future faking conversation. Let's just forget about the past. Why are we talking about the past? I don't want to be held accountable. I don't want to hear about my sins. I want my charm to work as it has before. Let's just move on. All of that. It's all an icky conversation. So that's that. Number six is you interrupted me. Why are you bringing that up now? All of that is I don't want to be held accountable. Anytime they say you interrupted me, why are you bringing that up? This isn't a good time. It's all around I don't want to be held accountable. That's what that really means. I don't want to be held accountable. Just like let's forget about the past. I don't want to be held accountable. All of that translates to, there's so many different phrases that lead to translating to mean I don't want to be held accountable. Right? You interrupted me. There's so many different phrases that lead to that, but That's what that is. Do you agree? Give me an agree in the chat. This is probably way more than 10, but that's okay. Number 7, I never said that, or you heard me wrong, you're remembering wrong. I don't want to be held accountable. That's what that means. Number 8, you're too sensitive. That is, I don't want to have to deal with you. I don't want to have to deal with your emotions. I'm like, this is too much for me. I don't want to have to like show empathy toward you. I don't feel empathy, so I don't want to have to show it. So you're too sensitive, right? Because they don't feel any empathy, so I don't want to have to show any empathy. So therefore, you're too sensitive. And number 9 is with all due respect. With all due respect or respectfully, that translates into I have no respect for you whatsoever. Yeah, I hate that one, especially because you definitely hear that from men to women, with all due respect. And number 10 is the last one. And number 10 is stop being so selfish. Stop being so selfish is especially from a narcissist, which is anytime you are trying to bring up your own feelings of any kind, that is, I don't want to hear about you. I don't want to hear about your feelings. I don't want to be held responsible. Stop taking any time away from me. Stop taking any supply away from me. You're supposed to be catering to my needs. That's what that translates to. So you're being selfish is that. So you need to not feel guilty when they say that. You need to know that that's what's going on when they say that. It has nothing to do with you being selfish. It has everything to do with the fact that they are actually the selfish ones. And it's okay for you to actually have needs and want to be a whole person in a relationship.
What does that look like? How can you spot that liar? How can you spot the red flag and run like the other direction by seeing a narcissist just by their body language, which is so, so powerful because body language is actually, they say, up to 70 to 93% of all communication that we read or speak is non-verbal. And they estimate that 15% of the population is actually narcissistic or has a personality disorder that lacks empathy now, or another 10% of the population, and maybe there's some overlap there, is actually high conflict. So, we are probably all feeling like we're drowning in people who are difficult or high conflict at this point. So you probably are feeling powerless. You're probably feeling paranoid. You're probably feeling confused. Maybe you're even feeling hopeless, like you can never win. So if you're trying to communicate with people like this, maybe it's a toxic personality and you want to grab every possible edge that you can, learning how to read body language is so, so powerful. And being aware of the nonverbal cues in narcissists and working them to your own advantage is so, so critical. Why not have every possible edge that you can, right? The nonverbal is this part that people don't often talk about. And I, as an attorney, have always been looking for whatever edge I can get, whether it's been in trials that I was doing or now with my high conflict negotiation certification program that I have. I'm looking for whatever competitive edge that I can get that I can spot that other people won't necessarily spot. What kind of cues can I look for? What kind of nonverbal cues can I look for? And body language is such a powerful place that we can go that other people aren't necessarily looking for. So what is body language necessarily? It's a tone of your voice. It's the physical space that you're taking up. And narcissists are going to pick up on these things and look at these things, right? So the very first thing that you can look at with a narcissist is how they mirror. They're going to mirror you because They understand that, especially with a grandiose narcissist. They've been reading people from the beginning, when the time that they were children. And so they know how to pick up on your body language. They thrive on attention, they thrive on validation. So they often resort to grandiose movements and exaggerated expressions, especially those grandiose narcissists. They love to command that spotlight. It's their way of asserting dominance and reinforcing their inflated need to have that attention, their feeling of self-worth from external sources. So a lot of times, especially for a grandiose narcissist, you'll see big, huge, grand gestures, big, huge movements. Especially for a grandiose narcissist, you see big movements for them. For other types of narcissists, what you will see is a lack of eye contact. They have a lack of empathy. It's difficult for them to make eye contact. It's difficult for them to see you. It's fleeting. It's definitely very, very fleeting for them. And they view empathy as weakness a lot of times. So they rarely exhibit that authentic compassion toward others. And in fact, they try to feign interest. They look to see what the cues are from other people because they know that they're supposed to do this. And so they look to see what's the minimum amount that I'm going to have to do. And just to show that I'm doing something and feign it to the level that they think that they have to or whatever, just enough to see what the situation calls for. That lack of eye contact is what you're going to want to be looking for, that fleeting amount of eye contact. So just observe that eye contact, or the lack thereof, right? And observe how much vulnerability you see in their eyes. A lot of times you see these black eyes. You hear about narcissists having black eyes, dark eyes, gray eyes, because they struggle to have that vulnerability or that eye contact with people. So they resort to brief, superficial contact with the other person, evasive eye contact. The next one you're going to see a lot of times with narcissists is what I call incongruent body language. A lot of times you'll see them maybe nodding their head or shaking their head when their mouths are saying something else. So they might be saying something like, absolutely, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. Their head is saying no while they're saying yes. And so they're saying, yes to an agreement, but their head is saying no. So you're seeing incongruent language to something, or incongruent body language to what's coming out of their mouth. And another way of showing something is their bodies might be facing a door while they are looking at you. So they're kind of like demonstrating that they're kind of out the door while they're looking at you. So they're not really paying attention to what you are saying, not really paying attention to what you're saying while you're having a conversation with them, not being fully engaged in a conversation with you. That's another way of knowing that you are dealing with somebody that's not present or doesn't have empathy with you. Those are just a few ways that you can tell that you are dealing with a narcissist, somebody who is definitely not engaged with you. You can tell by their body language as far as lying, how much they're touching their face, how high they are on touching their face, a lot of face touching. Now, sometimes people are just touching their face because maybe they have an itch on their face or something like that. A lot of times you have to kind of decode what's going on in the situation as well. You have to look at a lot of different things. Like I say, sometimes, maybe people really are just uncomfortable, in their chair, and maybe that's why they're sitting the way that they are, or maybe they're touching their face because they actually have an itch on their face. So you kind of have to look at the entire situation. It's not just, oh, well, that person happens to be a liar, but you have to kind of weigh all of it together. Maybe they're twitching their eye because they happen to have something in their eye, right? Understanding subtle cues can be so, so important. I urge you to look into all of this. There's so much that you can look into as far as how to decode body language, how to disarm narcissists. And I really urge you to arm yourself with as much knowledge and awareness as you possibly can. I have a whole course on this, honestly, and really understanding these subtle cues and manipulative tactics can really help you reclaim your power and help you navigate high conflict situations with clarity, with confidence. And remember that all of this will help you along the way. Each time you have a little bit more power, a little bit more power, a little bit more power, it helps you get that edge over that high conflict personality, over that narcissist, over that toxic person, and you gain that one more pearl.
Let's talk about phrases that narcissists use to control you. There are a lot of different ones that they use, but the good news for you is that narcissists actually do use the same types of phrases that in all different sorts of situations. I mean, the one thing I often say is that they're horrible, they're heinous, they're toxic, but it's almost like they use the same playbook. They are actually pretty predictable in their behavior. Are there different types of narcissists? Absolutely. There are. There are covert narcissists, there are grandiose narcissists, there are malignant narcissists. And by the way, if you want to know more about covert narcissism in relationships, I do have a whole video on that. I do believe that covert narcissists are probably the most dangerous type of narcissist in a lot of ways because they're the most difficult to detect. A lot of times they're the stealthiest ones. They look kind and sweet, and a lot of times they paint themselves as a victim. Sometimes they're like downtrodden. Oh, poor me. They guilt trip people a lot of times. And so a lot of times the coverts are the most difficult ones to spot. And the two that I had to deal with that targeted me were both covert. So going back to phrases that narcissists use to control you, one of them is no one else will love you the way that I will, or no one else understands you the way that I do. No one else will deal with you. Basically trying to make you feel like you're so disgusting, repulsive, horrible, whatever in some way that you might as well not go anywhere else because they're the only ones who can, manage you, handle you, like you, love you, whatever. But yet somehow they love you, they like you, they deal with you, they manage you. But, you might as well stick with them because they do. But it's like kind of messed up because why do they stick with you and like you and love you or whatever? It kind of defies logic, but yet that is something that they often will say, so it's sort of like to get you to stay, because if you go anywhere else, you're going to be rejected. You'll be alone. You'll be isolated. So you might as well stick with this person who's basically mentally, psychologically, and spiritually abusing you. So that's number one. Number two is they talk in absolutes. Everyone else thinks this, or no one else thinks that. Like basically to try to get you to believe that whatever it is that you think is just stupid, dumb, ridiculous, not based in reality. If you're trying to make a point to them about something that you think, usually about something about them, they'll try to use this collective who the hell knows who. You don't even know who everyone else is, or no one else is, but these, nebulous whoever's don't agree with you. They all agree with the narcissist, whoever these people are. But it's meant to try to make you feel bad. It's meant to try to make you feel like your opinion is completely discredited, invalidated, means nothing, and therefore you shouldn't have it because, whoever their flying monkeys are, they all are lined up with them and against you. So that's another kind of phrase that narcissists use to control you. Another type of phrase that narcissists use to control you, and there are going to be several of these. We're going to go into the types of phrases that narcissists use within the gaslighting realm. By the way, I do have a whole video on how to shut down gaslighting, which you should definitely check out as well. But so these are the types of phrases that narcissists will use to make you think that you're crazy, because gaslighting is meant to make you think that you're crazy. It's meant to make you feel like whatever it is that you're thinking isn't true, to make you question your mind, to make you question your reality, to make you question what it is that you believe that you saw or you heard, or what you're seeing isn't what you're seeing, or what you're hearing isn't what you're hearing, or what the conversation is that you believe took place isn't what you took place. Your feelings aren't your feelings. That's what gaslighting is. So they will say things in the gaslighting realm such as, you're oversensitive. So you're oversensitive is to invalidate your feelings. So if you are feeling hurt about something that took place, then they'll say you're oversensitive. You shouldn't be hurt about that. That's meant to invalidate your feelings. Another gaslighting phrase is something like, we talked about that, and this is what we agreed to. You agreed to this, don't you remember? And you'll be like, we didn't agree to that. We never had that conversation. We agreed to this, or that conversation never took place at all. They will change the details of a conversation, or they'll basically say that you agreed to something that never took place whatsoever. That's total gaslighting. You'll say, you said this, and they'll say, I never said that. I never said that at all. Again, that's gaslighting. They'll say things like you're delusional when you're trying to say something about how something took place, or how you're feeling about something, or your perception of something that's happening. You're delusional. I mean, that's totally meant to just say you're crazy. I mean, that's straight up gaslighting. Straight up gaslighting. If you see a text message between somebody and a coworker, maybe it's your husband and a coworker that looks flirtatious or something, and it doesn't look totally appropriate. You're just jealous. And it turns out maybe you weren't just jealous. Maybe there was something going on between them. That's all gaslighting. Those are all gaslighting types of phrases. They're designed to make you think that you're crazy. Another type of gaslighting is in conversation, where you're trying to have a conversation with them, and you'll say, I want to talk to you about, these text messages that I saw. And they'll say, why are you bringing that up now? And you say, well, when would be a good time? And they'll say, oh, I don't like your tone. Well, I didn't raise my voice. Yes, you did. You just raised your voice. And now I can't talk to you because you're raising your voice at me. And now you can't get to the point of it because they keep interrupting you about that. Oh, now you just interrupted me. Oh, now it's about this. Oh, now it's about that. And you can never get to the actual point of the conversation because they keep talking about other things. And, they'll bring up something else, or they'll bring up something else, or they'll bring up something else. Again, project, deflect, lie, deny. If you've seen any of this so far, I would love to see a totally in the comments, because I'm sure that you guys have seen some of this so far. Okay. And then the next kinds of phrases that narcissists will use to control you are what I call guilt trip phrases. Guilt trip phrases. And you will definitely see this with covert narcissists. This is so much, because of the victim mentality with covert narcissists. I mean, this is the one thing that you always see with covert narcissists. And I have a whole video on the one thing you always see with covert narcissists. You should definitely check it out. So guilt trip phrases. This is like, especially if you try to leave a covert narcissist, you try to leave a narcissist, they might try to say things like, I would die if you leave, or don't leave the family. I would commit suicide if you leave, or you can't leave the family. Oh, I can't believe you're spending time over there. I can't believe you wouldn't be with the family. And so they'll try to guilt trip you, so that you don't do the kinds of things that you want to do. They'll try to make you feel bad about having a life or doing other things or that. And so they will use phrases like that to try to guilt trip you back into doing the things that they want you to do. That's a little bit more passive aggressive. And, you will see passive aggressive types of phrases from especially covert narcissists, like, you've lost weight, but, you still have a ways to go. Things like that, passive aggressive types of things from covert narcissists. It's like not so nice kinds of things. Like they try to say nice things, but then it ends up not being so nice, that sort of thing. But that's not phrases used to control you. Those are just passive aggressive types of things, but that's another whole story. But this video and this podcast is really focused on the phrases that narcissists use to control you.
So now let's talk about triangulation and flying monkeys. If you don't know what a flying monkey is, it is a person that is being used against you by that narcissist. And they may not even know that they're being used as a flying monkey, or sometimes maybe they know that they're being lined up against you, but sometimes they don't even realize that that's what's going on. And if you want to know more about flying monkeys, you should definitely check out my video on flying monkeys. But it comes from the Wizard of Oz, where the Wicked Witch had flying monkeys, and these flying monkeys would kind of do her dirty work and go along with whatever it was that she wanted to do. They were just there kind of hanging out and being used against people, Dorothy, and there was the Tin Man and the Scarecrow and the Lion, to scare them, and also to intimidate. They were kind of scary looking, weird creatures, right? So that's what a flying monkey is. And the triangulation is part of what a narcissist uses to manipulate, punish, and control you. And definitely check out my video on what tactics they use for manipulation and control to learn more about what all of the ones are that they use. But when you're dealing with a narcissist, especially during the discard phase, then flying monkeys are going to start getting lined up. But they start lining up the flying monkeys even while you're in a relationship with them. Both of the narcissists that I had to deal with were doing that. And it was one of those things when it was happening to me that I could feel that these narcissists were talking about me to people they thought would, hurt me, or that it would be especially powerful to have them be against me in some way. And I could feel it, but I didn't know exactly what was going on. I certainly didn't have the terminology of flying monkey or triangulation or even narcissism. I didn't even know that these people were narcissists yet. At that point, I was really more just like, this doesn't feel right. Something's going on here. Something is wrong. I feel like these people don't like me, or they're lining up to be with these people. So I wasn't really sure what was going on. But here's the kind of phrases. There are certain kinds of phrases that the narcissists use in order to triangulate. One of the phrases that they use to you: everyone thinks, everyone else believes that you are an alcoholic. Everyone knows how difficult you are. Everyone knows how great I am. Everyone thinks that I am successful. Everyone else believes that I'm a great dad or a great mom. But you're the only one who doesn't think that. Everyone knows how I've built this business and how great I am to work for. You're the only one who has the problem. So kind of the flip of everyone thinks is you're the only one. And that's one of the ways that they start triangulating. And this is where I say that these are people who aren't, they don't even know that they're being used as flying monkeys. But it's a term meant to gaslight you, trying to make you think that you're crazy, is that everyone thinks you're the only one that thinks that. The second one is always. So they go and they tell people, she always says this about me, or she's always drinking too much. He's always late for picking up the children, always. So they use words like always to make it seem like it's just a constant thing. And, you know, these are things that might have happened once. I mean, there might have been one time where you were late, either to work or to picking up the kids or whatever. And now this person is going to characterize this as this always is happening to other people. They'll say that sort of thing. So basically what's happening when they are trying to triangulate is they are trying to get this person to give them credibility, to give them validity, and also make you feel bad. So it's kind of like a double thing that they get out of this is they get this credibility, which bolsters their ego, which feeds their narcissistic supply. And coupled with it also makes you feel intimidated, makes you feel bad, hurts you in some way, makes you think that you're crazy and you're the only one, or makes you think that all these people are lining up against you and everyone is on their side and not on your side, or especially people that mean something to you. And if you have seen this and you have been a victim of this and you know that this is not okay, give me a not okay in the comments. So the next one that they use is even. And how they use even is like, even the worst person in the world knows that fill in the blank. Even my crazy ex never acted as bad as you. Even your mother doesn't like you. Even the people on the street were looking at you and seeing how unhinged you were. Even the drunkest people at the party saw how your behavior was so bad. You know, things like that. So even is another way that they start to triangulate. And they might even say it to other people, you know, like as they're talking bad about you, even that, you know, the neighbors saw that or heard them screaming or heard him or her doing something or whatever. So these are the types of evens that they'll use for other people to try to line those people up against you and make you feel like, you know, even the biggest scum of the earth is seeing you and judging you, or is better than you in some way. So the flip side of all of these words can also be used as well. So, every time or always can always be never. And no one thinks instead of everyone thinks. The idea is really just to try to make you feel like you're on an island alone, that no one else thinks the way you think, that everyone else believes that the other person is wonderful. You're never going to get anywhere. You shouldn't even bother to try. It's also to try to make you feel jealous, make you feel small, make you feel controlled by this person, intimidated by this person. They get everybody thinking that they're wonderful, and the flip side of you feeling terrible and intimidated or jealous, or like everyone thinks badly of you in some way and thinks wonderful of the other person in some way. So they'll use whatever they need to, especially with people that they think will be extremely hurtful to you, like maybe your family or other people that you work with, or people who are close to you. Anybody who they think that they're really, really good at finding the weak spots, the people who might fall for what it is that you're going to say. One of the things that I noticed when I was dealing with a family member who's a narcissist is that this person would go up to the other person and act like the victim. Like, I've tried so hard, and, they're just not kind to me. They're not good to me. And then the other person would come back to me and my husband and say, maybe you could try harder, or maybe you could give this person another chance, or, because obviously that person who's now become a flying monkey has no idea what the history of the relationship was, or the kinds of things that had been done. They only know the sad story, the victim story. Covert narcissists are especially great at this. This is why I really just have a massive disdain for covert narcissists. If you want to know more about covert narcissists, check out my video on covert narcissism and relationships. I go into much, much deeper information about that. But they're especially good at playing the victim. And, this person who is much more powerful than me was able to take advantage of me, and it's not fair, and life isn't fair. And so that's another way that narcissists use as a method of triangulation.
One of my favorite holiday traditions is baking cookies with my daughter. We've done it every year since she was little. And now, even though we're miles apart, I can see those memories come to life again right here on my Aura frame. What if you could give a gift that brings your holidays to life all the time, every single day? And with an Aura frame, you can. I absolutely love how easy it is. You can preload the photos before you ship it as a gift, and then you can actually remotely continue to add to it. It includes photos and videos, all for free, and it comes packaged in a beautiful gift box, no price tag. Can't wrap togetherness, but you can frame it with Aura Frame. And for a limited time, you can visit auraframes.com and get $45 off Aura's best-selling carver mat frame, named #1 by Wirecutter, using the promo code Rebecca at checkout. That's auraframes.com. Promo code Rebecca. This exclusive Black Friday Cyber Monday deal is their best of the year, so order now before it ends, and make sure you mention the show when you go to checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
Let's talk about gaslighting. One of the narcissist's favorite little go-to bag of tricks. And it's almost like they need to do it. They're like compelled. It's like a way of life for them. So gaslighting is a form of manipulation. It's a psychological form of manipulation to try to get control over you and try to make you think that you are crazy. And they use it in a lot of different ways, and especially in negotiating. When they are dealing with somebody during a discard phase, it really comes up quite a lot. So I have seen it a lot in my law practice. And so if you are negotiating with a narcissist in any way, shape, or form, whether it's in a divorce, a business partnership, or maybe it's even a family member, a neighbor, or somebody who used to be your friend, then you will see these phrases and these signs of gaslighting coming up in some shape or form, because they're actually pretty predictable. Even though narcissists are like really heinous to deal with, they're actually fairly predictable as far as their personality type. They kind of all act the same. You see it, a lot of people that are in my private Facebook group are talking about it thinking, wow, do they have all the same playbook? I've heard people say that. It's amazing. It's like we're talking about the same person. If you want to know more about the private Facebook group and you want to join us, it's called Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. But they have, favorite gaslighting phrases that they use and also tactics that they use. And if you want to know more about gaslighting tactics, you should check out my video on gaslighting tactics, and we'll make sure we drop a link to that below. But on this video, we're going to focus mostly on the types of phrases that they use in order to gaslight you. So if you hear any of these phrases, you're going to know, okay, this person is trying to gaslight me. And if you are the target of gaslighting, you're probably starting to feel anxious, feel traumatized, feel like you're going crazy, like you can't think straight. You start to lose confidence in yourself. You start to think, you just can't do anything right. It spills over into other areas of your life, not just in dealing with that narcissist, but other areas of your life as well. You don't have the confidence to negotiate or do anything that you want to try to do. I mean, it spills over even into other relationships, your personal life, your business life, everything. You just are so anxious. You can't think straight. You feel powerless, paralyzed sometimes, and that's what the result is of constant gaslighting, because that's what they want. They want you to feel that way. They're manipulating you. Okay, so the first phrase that they use is, you're crazy and need help. So when you try to bring things up, you try to point something out about the narcissist, you try to say, what you did was wrong. Especially covert narcissists, they do these little passive aggressive things, and constantly make you feel like you're the one who's crazy when you try to bring it up. And they sometimes the things that they do are so small, so little. I've said this example before, but there was an example of a husband who, used to stop at Starbucks all the time, and he would get out of the car and ask the wife if she wanted anything, and then he would get back in the car and have only his coffee and not what she had asked for, and she'd say, oh, what happened to mine? Oh, sorry, I forgot. And, he would just drive away. And, that's the kind of thing, like if you bring it up, it's like, oh, you're just so crazy. It was inadvertent. I didn't mean it. And sometimes these things are so small that, it's like you think to yourself, well, am I going to blow up a marriage over this? Or if I tell people, do they think I'm sounding petty? But it's this constant little drip, drip, drip on your forehead, where, you just feel like you're going insane. Or I've heard the term death by 1,000 cuts. That's another way that you can describe it. It's like, just like little by little, you're just being cut to pieces. So that's the first one. You're crazy and you need help. So nice, very charming, very charming. The second one is you're just insecure and jealous. So, this is the one where you found texts on the phone with somebody that they work with and it seems kind of flirtatious, or, you see pictures where someone else is wearing his jacket, or, they seem to be a little too chummy at work and maybe they're talking about stuff that they shouldn't. You're just starting to see these little signs of things that don't seem right. They don't add up. And, you're just insecure and jealous. I actually had a client one time who had followed her husband to a hotel with this other woman. She actually saw them go into the hotel. She even had the credit card receipt that showed that they had gotten a room at the hotel. They were in there for like an hour, and then they came out of the hotel room, and she told me that he said nothing happened in the hotel. They just talked. So, and she was like, wanting to know if she should believe him. And I don't have any judgment about that, because you know what? She had probably lived with such gaslighting for so many years that she really didn't know what to believe anymore, even if it's so obvious to the rest of the world. Because, he told her, you're crazy, you're jealous, you're overreacting. And so she was questioning whether or not she really was, because that's gaslighting. It makes you question your own sanity. The next one is, it was just a joke. So they say something like super mean, like, oh, you walk really funny, or the way you chew is weird, or something like that. Oh, I was just joking. It was just, can't you just take a joke? You're so serious. What's wrong with you? When they say like hurtful things, oh, that was really supposed to be just funny. You can't take a joke? So, obviously, you're just super stiff, and there's something wrong with you. And if you are so ready to fight back against that narcissist gaslighting, give me a fight back in the comments. The next one is, I never said or did that. I never said that. I never did that, even though they clearly said or did that. Even if you have proof, even if you have emails, whatever it is, they just changed that. I never said that exactly. I had a client one time who his soon-to-be ex-wife said that, if he didn't do what she said that she wanted him to do, that she was going to contact the authorities. And he wrote back and said something like, there's no reason to threaten that you're going to call the cops. And she wrote back and said, I never said I was calling the cops. I said I would contact the authorities. And so clearly, that's just like changing it. I never said that, even though that's exactly what she said. And she knew that that's what she wanted him to think that she meant. And so she just changed it. So that's a really, really good example of gaslighting. Last one is my favorite, because, when you're dealing with them and negotiating, it's, something you see all the time, which is moving the goalposts. And you see that in negotiation, where they constantly, you're trying to resolve the issue, and, you finally agree to whatever it is that they are offering. And now all of a sudden, that's no longer on the table. You have to go and renegotiate it again, and they make it your fault that the deal has changed. And
I'm so glad you're here, because today I'm going to be sharing with you 8 phrases that narcissists use to manipulate you, so that when you see it coming, you'll be able to spot it. You'll be able to turn it around. You're going to be able to start looking at it almost like as a third party and go, okay, got it. Now I see what you're up to. Now I see what you're trying to do. And by the way, because you're saying these things, I know that you're a narcissist. All right, so let's dive in. The first one is, they'll say something like, I guess I'm a bad person. You're trying to make a point about something. You're pointing out something like, they didn't do something that they said they were going to do, or they did something that they shouldn't have, and you're just trying to get them to take responsibility. You're trying to have a conversation with them, and what they try to do then is they just become the victim. Oh, I guess I'm just a bad person. You're just attacking me. I guess I should just die. I should, and instead of now having a conversation, you're the one who's attacking them. You should feel bad, especially if they're a covert narcissist. Then you might see tears starting to flow, something like that. If you want to know more about the covert passive aggressive narcissist, definitely check out my video on the covert passive aggressive narcissist. And I also have one on covert narcissists in relationships, because I really detest covert narcissists because I had to deal with a couple of them in my own life. But the very first thing that they say is, I guess I'm a bad person. They shift it around. They make themselves the victim. All right. So that's number one. Number two is, do I still matter? Now we're not talking about the issue at hand. It's again, they're turning it around. They don't want to have to take responsibility for whatever it is that they should have done or didn't do, or did do and shouldn't have, or whatever it is. Or whatever it is that they said. Maybe you're hurt, maybe you're upset about something. They don't want to have to be responsible for that. They don't want to have that light shining on themselves. So they will do whatever they need to get that off of themselves and move it to a different direction. And so another thing they'll say is, do I still matter? Doesn't the relationship matter to you? Why are you doing this? Why are you bringing this up now? What is it that you need to do now about this? And instead of actually addressing the issue, it becomes all about all of that stuff. However they can create noise around it, that's what they will do. Okay, so then the next one is, if that's the way you feel, in other words, like kind of diminishing your feelings, diminishing whatever it is that you're bringing up to them. I guess so, if that's the way you feel about it. And it might even be like in a mocking tone. It might be in a sarcastic tone. They're definitely letting you know that whatever it is that you're deciding to do is probably a terrible idea. They're very judgmental about it. They want you to feel bad about whatever it is that you're deciding to do, if that's the way you feel. Okay. So, all right. The next one is, if you loved me, then if you love me, then you won't do this. If you love me, then you will do this. If it's in a business setting, if you valued the relationship, if you value working with me, then you wouldn't say this, you wouldn't do this, or you would do this, whatever it is that you want them to do. So that's another way of getting them to, or getting you to be manipulated by them. And if you have totally seen this before, give me an amen in the comments. Okay, so the next one is, you don't trust me. Again, this is a manipulation. They're doing something that you definitely don't trust them. And they're like, oh, you don't trust me. They're trying to make you feel bad. They're trying to make you feel guilty for not trusting them. How could you question them? They've always been there for you. They've always been by your side. Have they ever let you down? And of course you're thinking, yeah, you have. And yeah, I don't trust you. But, then they start playing on your emotions. They start playing on your feelings. And especially if you're an empath or you're an empathic person, it's really, really hard to stand back up to that. And if you want to know more about that symbiotic relationship between the narcissists and the empaths, definitely check out my video on that topic, because there is definitely sort of this, lethal attraction that goes on there between narcissists and empaths. But anyway, that's the next one. You don't trust me. All right. So the next one is, I've never seen anything this bad before. I've never seen anyone do anything like this before. Trying to make you feel like you're the only one who's ever asked this, done this, said this, whatever it is. And if you want to know more about that, definitely check out my video on Narcissist favorite sayings. But that is something that they do as well to try to manipulate you. I've never seen this. I've never done this. I've never seen anyone, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the next one is we talked about. This is a really, really famous one. It's a gaslighting type of a phrase that a lot of covert narcissists especially use. We talked about that. Don't you remember? You agreed. And you never had that conversation before, you never agreed to anything, but after a while they prey on your sanity, and then you start to question your sanity. Well, maybe we did talk about that, I don't even remember now. But that's what they do. That's how they manipulate that and eventually, because they've messed with your mind so much, they start to have power and control over you. But once you start to see it and you start to notice it, then it'll stop and you'll start to realize what's actually going on, and you're waking up, because that's why you're here, right? Okay. And the last one is, I would never, trying to shame you. I would never do this. I would never say that. I would never let you down like that. I would never accuse you of anything. I would never talk to my friends about you. All those sorts of things, even though they definitely would. But that's one of the things that they say is, I would never. So that's one of the other manipulation phrases that narcissists use. They love to manipulate. And so what do you have to do in response? You have to ethically manipulate the manipulator right back. And that's what I teach you how to do.
Okay, so I have heard it all when helping people negotiate with narcissists and break free from these toxic relationships. And they say the same things over and over again. The thing about narcissists is that they do have a pattern of how they speak. And that's the good news. I mean, the bad news is that it is so difficult to deal with them. But the good news is that there is a pattern in dealing with them. And so if you're kind of wondering, am I dealing with a narcissist? Is it true? Is this person that I'm trying to manage, communicate with, negotiate with a narcissist? Well, check out this video and you'll know by the end of this video. And make sure you watch all the way to the end, because I do have 7 different phrases here, and all of them taken together are, kind of a checklist for you. So you can kind of see, taken together, is this person a narcissist that I'm dealing with? Okay. And as I said, I've helped millions of people through this channel, thousands of people through my practice in coaching people through negotiations, through my law practice. So I definitely have seen it all. Believe me. All right. So number 1 is, you make such a big deal out of everything. This is really a form of gaslighting. And gaslighting is a way of making people feel like they're crazy. It's a form of control. It's a form of destabilizing people. It's really a way of getting a narcissist victim to believe that they don't have power. And so it's something that narcissists use to make their victims feel confused. So you make such a big deal out of everything. That's number 1. Number 2, this is really from a male to a female. Okay. And this is it your time of the month? I know it is so misogynistic. It's so degrading. It's so devaluing. And it really is just so meant to be, I'm not giving any credence to what you're saying. I'm totally going to just devalue whatever it is that just came out of your mouth, because I'm just going to say, oh, is it your time of the month? That's number 2. Number 3 is other people's wives or husbands think blah, 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 other people's spouses, or in the same vein, it's even so-and-so agrees with me. You know, this is all in the same line of everyone else thinks, everyone else believes, or no one else thinks. It's a way of making you feel isolated. It's a way of making you feel like you're the only one who thinks this, or no one else thinks that. And it's actually also part of almost like a smear campaign that has started as well, because in that, they also maybe have started to speak about you to these people. And during the discard phase, you do see the birth of the smear campaign as well. And I do have a whole video on how to shut down the narcissist smear campaign, which I highly recommend that you check out, because sometimes the smear campaign can actually start long before you even know the discard phase has started, you know, where they started planting seeds long before. They started saying things about you long before that aren't even necessarily where I'm saying something bad about the person. They couch it in terms of concern. A lot of times I'm concerned about this person's parenting skills. I'm concerned about this person's drinking. I'm concerned about how much this person is working. I'm concerned about their long hours. I'm concerned about how much time they spend away from home, something like that, where it's a backhanded smear. And so then by the time the discard phase comes along, they can say, oh, I told you, that they spend so much time away. So that by the time it comes time to go into a custody phase or something like that, they can say, oh, I told you that they were never around, or I told you they were a terrible parent, or whatever. Even so-and-so agrees with me that you were never around and that you're a terrible parent. Everyone else thinks that you're horrible. No one else thinks that you should have custody, something like that. And so, everyone else believes this or that. And, they do the same thing even in a workplace setting. So it doesn't have to be necessarily a marriage. It can be a workplace setting too. They do the same thing. So no one else thinks that you should get this promotion. No one else thinks that you're good at sales. No one else thinks that you are very good at this job. And everyone else thinks that I'm better at it. That sort of thing. I mean, it's the same principle. You can take this same principle and apply it across the board to whatever it is that we're talking about. So that's number 3. Number 4 is, why are you bringing this up now? So what they do is they take whatever it is that you are trying to bring up and they attack what you're talking about. They attack your tone, the timing, when you're bringing it up, where you're bringing it up, so that you never get to bring up the topic of what you're bringing up, so that you're never heard, because then you feel totally frustrated. You never feel like you matter then. It's a way of devaluing you. It's a way of disrespecting you. If you think that this is so true so far, put "so true" in the comments. Another one that they'll say is, I don't like your tone. I don't like your body language. I don't like how you're standing. I don't like your posture. Again, it's something else to attack so that you never get to the point of what it is that you're saying. And number 6 is you're so ungrateful or some derivation thereof. You're so unappreciative. You don't know how good you have it. Something like that. It's always something around how great they've been to you and how much you don't appreciate how good they are, and something to make you feel guilty. And especially if you are trying to ask for something from them, you are trying to get them to be held accountable for something, you're trying to hold them responsible for something, or you're even asking for them to acknowledge you or acknowledge your feelings, even not holding them accountable, even just acknowledge you in any way. That's when you're ungrateful, you're unappreciative, you don't know how good you have it, all of those things. They become a victim. They become a victim. Somehow it gets turned around back onto them. So that's number 6. And number 7 is you can never let anything go. You can never let anything go. Or can't we just move on? You're always starting problems. Can't we just move on? Why do we have to think about this? Why do we have to dwell on things? If you want to try to bring up anything that's an issue, then the next thing that they want to do is just forget about it, move on. Let's just sweep it under the rug. Let's just move on. Let's just get to the next level. You'll see, it'll all be better. And just basically future fake you. You'll see, it'll all be better. And why do we have to dwell on things? Okay, great. I already said it would be better in the future. Let's just move on. You got what you wanted. I said, fine. Okay, it'll be better in the future. From now on, you'll see it'll be amazing. And they don't want to hear anything more about it. And, they just try to love bomb their way into saying the rest of the time it'll be incredible. And they just want to focus on that. And they don't want to hear anything more about you, your feelings, how they may have hurt you. They just want to think about the future. They want you to think about the future because they don't want to have to be, held accountable at all. They don't want to be held accountable. They want to be held responsible. And they really believe that if they can just get you to think about the future, that you'll just forget about it too, that they can just love bomb you back into thinking about the future and that you'll just forget about it and that everybody can just move on. And then they won't have to be held responsible for it, that they can just charm you with their charisma the way they did in the beginning, and you'll just move forward. And, they don't care about your feelings anyway. So what difference does it make? They just want what they want. They want you to be pushing your feelings back into their direction. They don't want to have to spend any time giving anything into your direction.
Let's understand what's going on with narcissism. All right. This is really, really, really important. And when I was researching my book, I was blown away, literally blown away with what I learned about the narcissist brain. And when you figure this out too, when you find this out, you will literally be blown away too. So what happens with narcissists, how they were formed out of trauma. Okay. When we as humans are dealing with traumatic situations, stressful situations, our brains emit chemicals, neurotransmitters, hormones, adrenaline, and cortisol. And what happens is that the limbic system part of our brains then can be hit with a lot of that. And as children, when that happens, it can actually cause arrested development in the limbic system part of the brain. And so while the prefrontal cortex part of the brain can continue to develop, the limbic system part of the brain in children can actually not develop as much as quickly. And so when narcissists can become triggered as adults, that limbic system part of the brain, while the prefrontal cortex part of the brain continues to develop normally, that prefrontal cortex part of the brain is basically like a 6-year-old still. If something happens as adults that make them feel like they're back in survival mode, or they feel like they're losing control, they feel like they're going to be exposed, they feel it, it doesn't have to be reasonable, it doesn't have to be rational, it usually isn't. And it can be verbal or nonverbal, it can be body language, it could be an eye roll, it can be a tone of voice. It triggers them, and then that limbic system part of their brain takes back over, that emotional center part of the brain dominates. And when that happens, they don't even necessarily remember what's going on during that period of time. And when that happens, that's when the smear campaign is born, all of those things. And they will take themselves down to take you down. They're not thinking rationally, they're not thinking reasonably. The collateral damage that happens as a result can be staggering. During this period of time, it's wild what happens. It's weird, wild stuff. And so you become public enemy number one during this period of time. So navigating life when they discover that you're in the know can be a crazy time. Signs that you're onto them, it's something that you absolutely need to understand. And identifying these signs that they're onto you, signs that the narcissist knows that you're onto them, are absolutely critical and crucial, because you are going to want to know how to navigate this time. There's going to be some subtle shifts in behavior, and that their defensive reactions are going to be heightened. Their manipulations will be heightened. It's basically a toddler who's just starting to scream louder. They're going to scream longer. They're going to, if I just heighten, then they're going to do what I want. That's basically what's going to be happening. Just remember that they're always the worst right before they're ready to give up. You can't give them the cookie because it doesn't make it any better. You got to basically say, no, I'm not giving you the cookie. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. But just remember that you've been conditioned, they conditioned you, and you're going to be conditioning them back. You can do it in baby steps, but just notice what the signs are going to be when you start taking these baby steps. You'll start to see first that they'll start to maybe use those love bombing signals again, like, okay, I'll do what worked before. I will be more of the charm, more of the future faking, more of the, you'll see it's all going to be better. You'll see that it's how great it's all going to be. They'll turn on that again, that form of manipulation. And then they'll start to see, well, maybe that's not working. So then they turn to the next form, which is, let me start getting my control back. So whatever they were doing before to try to have control, they'll do more of that. Trying to control your text messages, well, then, more of that. Or if they were difficult before, well, then it's even more difficult. If they were monitoring your behavior, then more of that. Whatever it is that they were doing, it's more heightened. And then when they start to realize, okay, this isn't working, that's when you start to see you're going to start to become public enemy number one. Then you'll start to see the threats. Then you'll start to see, well, you're going to come down. I'm going to go after you. The mask is going to start to whip off. Everyone else is going to know. You're not going to get anything. Your reputation is going to be mud. I'm taking everything from you. All of that is going to happen, even for covert narcissists. The mask is off. You're going to be like blown away by how bad they can be at that point, because they'll start off by saying, well, we can do this amicably and all of the things that they'll say to your face. But when they realize that that's not happening, then the mask is going to come off. This is where you're going to see the birth of the smear campaign. They will smear you to whoever they can smear you to, and you will be left behind. Let me tell you, because the person that you thought you might be able to have something with closure, something where you could walk away, still be on good terms with, all of those things, that doesn't happen when you're dealing with somebody who's a narcissist. It just doesn't happen. As much as I have ever tried with somebody who I thought was a good person, somebody who I thought was not a narcissist or whatever, it doesn't happen. And so you will have to create boundaries. You will have to preserve your own headspace when it comes to dealing with a person who's a narcissist. If the very first boundary that you draw is that you say to yourself, I will be spoken to with respect, even if you're in the same house, or if you're in the same office, or you're still in a business partnership, or whatever it is, you can put an invisible sort of boundary down around yourself. Teflon, I always say, sort of like an invisible barrier down around yourself, and start looking at the person as if they are having a tantrum on the floor, and start observing their behavior to them. You can start to say things like, I can see that you're upset. I can see that you are angry, and start to not personalize the behavior, and just start to say, we can have this conversation later when you have calmed down. This approach is not working for me.
And today I'm going to be sharing insights into the fear that lurks behind that confident facade of narcissists. So what really makes a narcissist who they are? I mean, what makes them tick? Well, they've got this deep insecurity. It's a deep sense of shame. It started off with trauma. They were children, and they needed to feel like they needed to survive. That's what happened initially. And so their brains were conditioned to believe that they needed to survive. Their brains were wired for survival. And because of that, they think that they need to grasp on to, manipulating people. And it's a very fragile ego that they've got going on. And it's this fragile shell of what's happening. They've got this tiny little, it's like a tiny little, scared little thing that's inside of them that they're constantly protecting. And they don't want you to know that. It's like, I always say, it's like the Wizard of Oz, this big, huge head, but the thing that's behind it is this feeble little man behind the curtain. And, or this chocolate Easter bunny that looks really pretty on the outside, but behind it is this little shell. And, it's very hollow inside. And so you need to understand that it's all about survival for them. It has really nothing to do with you. It has all to do with them needing to survive. That's why they have no empathy for you, because it's all about them and their pain and shame constantly. And so the worst thing that scares them is, being exposed. They don't want to be exposed for who they really are. And so when you are creating leverage, which is one of the things that I teach you how to negotiate with them. That's the first place that you can go, is building up, keeping track through your documentation of, keeping track of their lies, keeping track of their bad behavior, making summaries of all of that, and saying, hey, I can potentially expose you, and having a strategy around that. And that becomes your leverage. So what are their 5 core fears? Their 5 core fears are: number 1, being challenged. They have this need to always be right, and they don't want anyone to expose them. They have to be in control. And why can't they stand being questioned? Because they have to have everyone think that they're in control all the time. And even if they get proven wrong, they'll stand you straight and look straight in your face and say, that's not correct. I mean, the sky could be blue, and they'll look you straight in the face and say, no, it's purple. I mean, I've actually seen lawyers in court look you straight in the face and say that whatever it says on the page of a transcript, that's not what it says, even though that's what it says in the transcript of their own words. They do not want to be challenged. 5 core fears, number 1. Number 2 is being slighted. Oh my gosh. Their constant need for attention and praise, however small. So the smallest little slight can set them off. It can be a tone. It can be an eye roll. I always say that narcissists hear tones like dogs hear whistles. Like, it can be, no tone whatsoever. They hear tone. So, that's why I always say when you want to get something from them, fluff or favor, vomit later. You kind of fluff up their ego so that you can try to get something from them. Right? So that's number 2. And, I would love to know what you guys have seen from this so far. Let me know in the comments what you guys have seen so far. And number 3 is being abandoned. I know that they act like the worst. And you think, why would anyone want to stay around it? Because they're horrible. But yet they have this massive fear of rejection. You constantly are thinking, why would I want to be around you? You've been awful. You want to run away from them like your hair is on fire. But then it's this constant push-pull, because the minute you're trying to leave, that's when they turn the charm back on again, right? Because they don't want you to leave. And then they start doing all the things that they were supposed to do in the first place, which is just maddening, because then that they know what they were supposed to do in the first place, right? Totally, right? Put totally in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. And if you're trying to negotiate with a narcissist right now, please grab my free Crush My Negotiation Prep worksheet. It's a free 15-page ebook, and it will definitely help you. Get that at winmynegotiation.com, winmynegotiation.com. It'll totally help you. And I can drop a link to that below as well, winmynegotiation.com. It's a free ebook, and it's helped so many people win their negotiations. So, and then number 4 is being alone. I mean, they hate being alone. And that's part of the reason why they're constantly struggling for attention and validation, because they don't want to have to be alone. Contrary to the way they act, they have the worst feelings of unworthiness. I mean, everybody has feelings of unworthiness. Everyone has feelings of insecurity, but they have the worst feelings of unworthiness of all of us. They have the deepest feelings of pain, the deepest feelings of shame. They struggle with awful feelings of emptiness. That's why they have a fear of being abandoned, right? And yet they treat you awfully, and then back to number 5 is being exposed. The image that they project versus who they truly are deep down inside is vastly different. Vastly different. And the fear of people seeing them for who they truly are is deep. And that's how you can build your leverage, is right around that, what I call that diamond level supply, that diamond level supply. So making sure that you know what that diamond level supply is, and making sure that you know what diamond level supply is versus coal level supply. And I explain a lot of this in my slave methodology, and diamond level supply being, who they look to, how they look to the world, and their image. and their co-level supply being degrading people, manipulating people, and treating people poorly, and basically you in this scenario. And to set up your best leverage, you need to figure out how to threaten a source of supply that's more important for them to keep than the supply that they get from jerking you around, which is you.